Hello, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Teresa Ranieri. I'm part of the eamba exchange team, and I welcome everybody watching now live to this being present in this meeting live or maybe later. So we're here to introduce Nicole Baden, who is going to host or facilitate the eamba offers every year from the 2nd to the 7th of January. And this is actually not the first time that Nicole is with us. And we have also Tatini Petra Schmidt, who is the coordinator, the organizer of the retreat. She's also here. She will join us in this conversation soon. So for those that do not know Nicole, I will share a short biography. So just to sense also the magnitude of her background, and I've been myself also part of a retreat with her, and it's incredible what she can offer. And so Tatsudo Nicole Baden is the abbess of the international non-profit organization Dharma Sangha and its Institutes and Practice Centers, the Crestone Mountain Zen Center in Colorado, USA, and the Zen Buddhist Center in the Black Forest in Germany. She's a Dharma successor or Sentatsu Baden Roshi in the Soto Zen lineage. She has been practicing Zen since 2001 and has received Dharma transmission in 2017. So parallel to this, she has also graduated as a psychologist from the University of Oldenburg in 2008. She has also trained at the School of Body-Mind Centering for 4 years. She was a member of the Council of the German Buddhist Union from 2013 to 2019 and is currently serving on the Advisor Council of the Mindfulness-oriented MBSR Association. She's been living and practicing either at the Crestone Mountain Zen Center or at the Zen Buddhist Center in Schwarzwald in Germany since 2009. And so this is her background, and now I pass it to Tatini. I will spotlight her just in a second. So remove myself and I will put Tatini as spotlight. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited, actually. My heart is beating. That's so wonderful. What a moment. Wow. I think what's so exciting about having you here again, Nicole, it's that the last retreats really made a long-lasting impression on me, and that's why we really wanted you back for one more time.
Yeah, you guys keep inviting me.
And
thank you.
What I and what our community really loves is the practicality of your teaching. I mean, this alternation between, and I so well remember between immersing myself in my own experience and also in the field of Zen beyond the me perspective, and alternating, and then bringing it into practice. It was just, it's very alive in me right now in my heart. I can really sense it. And the theme you will offer to us is the theme opening into original mind, the Zen path into freedom from categories. And I would like to quote what you say, and I just also wish to just read it out. And so you say, original mind is relatively free from categories. It's an unstructured mind, wild and deeply grounded in the immediacy of sensorial aliveness. No? And from this perspective, perception becomes appreciation and insight. And this makes me super curious. So, and then further on you say, we learn from the world itself, from mountains, from the misty air, birdsong, smoke of incense, the look in another's eye, or the inevitability of death or stress here, like I'm living in the midst of the city. And so I like so much to hand over to you now to maybe give us a taste of this. What do you mean by this? What can we hope for or expect in this 5-day retreat?
Everything all at once. And that actually is true. Everything all at that's the whole point of Original Mind. Everything all at onceness. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for your kind introductions and also, yeah, for inviting me again. I love being part of the MBSR scene, you know, like somebody just said, I think you, Tatini, or maybe Teresa, opening the retreat, having opened new worlds. This is vice versa. It's I am deeply rooted in traditional Buddhist practice, monastic practice, and so for me, the encounter with the MBSR world really was the first time that I really started interacting with the most powerful, I think, most widespread form of how these teachings are applied in wider society. And I'm very, very I'm learning a lot from that. So I'm happy and happy to be speaking with you tonight. So I understand that this is recorded and maybe some people will want to watch it just on YouTube. Okay, then I welcome those people as well. And so what I thought I'd do today is just to first, you know, give a feeling for what is original mind, like what's meant by it. And more than an understanding of it, I actually mean that to give a feeling for it. So that's one thing. And then I thought we could do a practical exercise, a kind of guided meditation, again, to kind of see how that feeling would translate into an actual shift in our perceptions. And then we can discuss afterwards. And, you know, maybe one particular point that's always of profound interest to me, it may or may not be relevant tonight, but it's the point of how is that kind of shift and that inner place that in Zen is metaphorically called original mind. How is that relevant in the challenges we're facing in today's world? To me, that's a super important point. Like how, what about this practice and how is this practice important in the suffering that we're facing in today's world? So we may or may not actually be talking about it, but I just, in what I do, Tatini, you partly, you mentioned that is you know, my toolbox is language. I very simply use language to kind of shape attention and to guide attention or to direct attention, and sometimes to a little bit, if I can, use language to kind of shift experiential perspectives. That's like a description of what I do. And the two aspects that are important for me in that work is that that shifting, I always want that to be embodiable, like not just a conceptual way of thinking about something, but actually having a new kind of experience, a new kind of feeling, a new kind of embodied sense. So the embodiment aspect is quite important to me. And then the ethical aspect is very present in just, you know, how we're redirecting our attention. And so, yeah, so, but let's dive into the topic. Original mind is the core concept in Zen. It's, you know, Zen is this school within Buddhism. You may know some of this. But, and actually, maybe let me ask for those of you who are here, who of you, just maybe by raising your hand, at least those who have your cameras on, is a regular meditator? So everyone a regular meditator, or is there somebody who has, yeah, all of those who are here right now? Regular meditators, good, okay. And great, thank you for showing up. And that's fine if you, I always like people having their camera on because then I can interact. But if it's not practical right now, then that's fine as well. So yeah, just to have a feeling for if you're regular meditators, and who of you is somewhat familiar with Buddhist thinking and Buddhist history? Would you say you're somewhat familiar with it? A little bit. Okay, so I have a sense for who I'm talking to. So then Zen is the Japanese incarnation of Buddhism. It's, of course, as a school known for being the teaching that's said to be outside of scriptures. It's the teaching within the whole Buddhist world ecosystem. It's the teaching that focuses most directly on just the non-structured experience of silence. But at the same time, there are hundreds and thousands of books about Zen. So it's not like, it's a bit paradoxical for Zen to say it's a teaching outside the scriptures, because it does produce a lot of scriptures. But it keeps, in all these scriptures are entirely about that place before the words arose. So it's said in the sutras even, that all the 84,000 teachings of the Buddha arose from one single silence. That's basically the same idea as original mind. All the manifold teachings of the Buddha, 84,000 teachings, arose from one single point of silence. So it's like that. It's original mind is that place of silence before things take form. And as Tatini already quoted, the way we can imagine it is, you may the first thing to really see here is that we're not just living in the world, in the out there objective world. Like even the situation we're sharing right now is not objective. I mean, if we were to, or we are recording this, if you were to make a transcript, then yes, there would be certain words are spoken and others are not spoken. So that's objectively, these are the words that we all heard, right? But each of us is hearing them differently. So we're living not in the world, we're living in our experience of the world. That's really the fundamental starting point and assumption of this practice. We need to really get that, a real awareness of, geez, I'm in the midst of my own experience right now. I'm not in the midst of the objective world, I'm in the midst of my own experience of the world. And this experience, just very briefly here, is conditioned by our biography, by our culture, and even by our biology. And that we tend to not look at so much. We humans tend to live so much in a human world that we kind of forget a little bit that spiders have their own world, the spider world, and butterflies have their world, and octopuses have their world. And these are all versions of the world. It's just different biology, different sensory systems. So original mind brings an awareness into how fluid and how multiple this world really is. It's what original mind, the perspective, once we learn how to really inhabit, and that's an embodied word right here, to inhabit a perspective, to look from a particular perspective. So to look from the perspective of original mind, from within the feeling of original mind, what would change, and we'll experiment with this a little bit today, what would change is we would see in the midst of seeing how the mind participates in the seeing, how it shapes what's being seen. And that awareness will change our relationship in some profound way. So basically, yeah, it's that learning how to almost like step inside the very source of where our perception really begins to take shape. That is the practice of original mind. And for those of you who've read the little description I put together, the classical teaching for how to approach the experience of original mind, because usually, of course, that's not our experience. Usually that's like deeply buried underneath. I call it the threshold of consciousness. Like, in other words, there's conscious experience. This is what I'm conscious of. But how the mind creates this experience? No, I don't see that. I'm just experiencing what I experience. I'm just at the receiving end. I'm like, my consciousness appears after all the construction has happened. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, usually I'm just getting the result of what my mind has done. And very often, or like actually in all cases, is the idea that the way mind has created that experience is a little bit like there's a lot of cold coffee in there. There's a lot of past stuff in there that's accumulating to make that experience appear in particularly that way. So the traditional model is the so-called 5 skandhas, and it's a model for how to walk our attention back through that process of creating this experience. So in other words, we're actually, in a very simple way, if I was to describe the process here, as you can imagine it this way, every perception starts with let's take a visual perception, like you can, and we will actually also do our little exercise with one visual object. This is my visual object that I have right in front of me. Does everyone, it'd be very funny if you didn't, but does everyone have a visual object around them? You can't not have one, so but have one visual object that you feel you can focus on. It can just be one thing. It doesn't need to be anything special. It just needs to have color and form. And I think everything qualifies. So, but what happens if you look at that object is at very first, just let's only now look logically, not only in terms of what's going on here as a process, is the very first thing that happens is that this particular light reflection will hit your retina, right? Your retina inside your eyeball, and that's where the first sensory contact happens. We tend to a little bit forget that because it looks as if the thing is out there, and as if like we don't have any awareness of the light really meeting our retina and this whole thing starting in our eyes. But that's the whole point. So the first, just physiologically, at first, there's just going to be a meeting in the sensory field, in this case, in the eye. And then this is being processed. There are other people, like if you're, like Rosa is a medical doctor, if you're a medical doctor, then you would know like really what the process is inside the brain. But I do know, there's first the thalamus is going to be involved, and then eventually this whole object is going to be processed in the visual cortex, which is here in the back, and then it's like what it is and what I think about it is going to be sent throughout the brain up front again, and then all my associations are coming in and so forth. In the end, what appears to me in my consciousness, and that's the fifth, the last one of the 5 skandhas, what appears to me in my consciousness is an orange cup. That's what I'm going to call it, an orange cup. And I actually got this from my teacher, Baker Roshi. So that's my and I have an association with it, like how he gave it to me and why actually I kind of stole it and then he never claimed it back. So there's a bit of a story here, and that's in that cup. Like, I know that. And if I lost it, I wouldn't like it, because it's kind of nice. I like having an object that he gave to me. If it broke, I would be mildly attached to it. So I have associations with it. But what appears in my consciousness is that object with a story about it. That's the last instance of a whole cognitive process. And so now in the practice, approaching original mind, we're actually going to walk our attention backwards through that process from the conscious object, a red cup given to me by Baker Roshi, through, and that's the next step in the 5 skandhas, that's the 4th skandha, through a field of associations. Now that field, for those of you who are not familiar with that teaching, is exactly what Sigmund Freud discovered. The field of associations. What he discovered is that if he had people recline the Freudian couch, he would kind of, that would make it possible to kind of slip them out of conceptual consciousness and slip them into a mind that's a little more fluid, just associative. And we can enter that mind all, I think, actually fairly easily, especially if we're a little trained in meditation. You can look at any one object and just kind of, if you can hold back from thinking about the object, if you can kind of refrain from just following your thinking, then what will happen is that associations will just start appearing. It's a little bit more like dream mind. And of course, Freud discovered that connection too, that associative mind is has a bit of a dreamlike quality. That's the 4th skandha. And we're going to be learning how to slip into, kind of like, it's a little bit like a radio station, you know, like you're tuning your inner radio. First, it's tuned into daily consciousness with an out there world. Then you're learning how to shift the tuning, and a different kind of music starts playing in your mind, and that's the mind of free associations, where, you know, like everything's a little different. It's like you're discovering and oftentimes surprising what kinds of associations are coming up. And it doesn't always work, because we're like, sometimes our mind is just kind of holding on too tightly inside consciousness. And then of course, and that's where the whole craft of practice comes in, when we're trying to do it, it really doesn't work, right? It's a little bit like trying to fall asleep. The trying is consciousness. So that's that whole paradoxical thing of how can you try to not try to do something. But that's needed here, and there's a chemistry for how that works. So we're opening into just a wider field of associations. That's the 4th skandha. But then there is, and that's the 3rd skandha, it's just called perception, percept only mind. And that's a powerful stage, because what happens in percept only mind is you're learning to hold your attention so that it's very precise. It's a very clear mind. It's exactly this perception. And you're learning how to not let all your biographical associations flow in. You're staying, this is what I call sensorial immediacy. You're staying just in the immediate perception without feeding it with its history, your own history, because that's what associations are. Or the possibilities of the future, those are also associations. You're just staying profoundly locked in, almost like locked into the present moment, just exactly as it is. That is percept only mind. It's the 3rd skandha. And then you're learning how to, even within that, yet let go of yet something else, like let go of even the names within that perception. And you're starting to open your mind into how each moment is like really flows and feeling. It's a kind of non-graspable feeling. And that's where some real communication can happen. You know, when what Tatini read, I don't have it in front of me right now, but this statement around learning how to learn from the world, how each thing is kind of like speaking to us. There's that feeling in a feeling world. You're just feeling the world and not even naming it. Well, now you've really landed in a radio station, in a domain that is before categories. Here we're just feeling what sensorial immediacy, like colors, sounds, smell, touch, how that creates feeling, how that creates, like, it's an overlapping. You're starting to feel how also your own body and your sense fields are flowing back and forth. There's a kind of reciprocity between seeing and being seen. It's like my little cup here in the skandha, and the second skandha of feeling. There might be even some sense of it's looking at me, not just I am looking at it, but it's looking at me. Some reciprocity like that. And then eventually there's the form skandha, which literally, as I just said in the very first moment of our meeting here, it's a kind of all at onceness. You're beginning to realize in the form skandha how each thing is never isolated. Everything is working together to make this moment possible. That awareness of how no thing could ever possibly exist outside of the interconnected net of existing, and it's vibrant within it, it has its place. And you have some feeling like it's a funny, as an imaginary thing, you could almost feel as if there are strings attached between all things that exist. And if you're moving one thing, it feels like you're moving all the space with it. Like with every motion, you're stirring a cosmic soup or something like that. There's a feeling of, you know, if there were strings attached, you're moving everything just with moving one thing. And that starts being an actual, again, a feeling within your perception. That's called form. And why is it called form? It's because that is, from the Buddhist perspective, how things actually exist. They're always changing and they are profoundly interconnected. And that's the actual form of things. Their impermanence and their profound interconnectedness. And so you can learn the practice and the craft of original mind is to learn how to, it doesn't always have to be in this absolute sense, but like just to have a real feeling for the presence of this kind of existence, coexistence, in the midst even of our daily lives. So the practice of original mind is to learn how to ground each moment, our perceiving each moment, how to have it be grounded and rooted in this experience of everything all at once, everything working together all at once as a kind of fundamental awareness. And that can be taught, that can be trained, that can be practiced, that can be opened up, that can be experienced. And then the more that is the case, it's the experience itself that teaches us. We usually only need, in Zen, the idea is while just for why not, sort of, ideally you would have a teacher all your life in the Zen mentorship tradition, but you really only need a teacher until life itself teaches you. And once that's the case, everything becomes just a flow of insight. You can learn something even from an orange cup, so-called orange cup. Yeah, that's my little intro into original mind. Maybe I'll pause here for a moment and just see if there are any questions or comments. Are there?
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Well, to be honest, it's difficult to go into the question because I just and that's my question. Intentional. So, to which extent do we keep intention and awareness when we go into that space of experiencing the strings, or coming to the tip of even seeing the possibility of strings being attached, and then asking a question?
You mean, to what extent do we actually have an intention, or do we just let things happen? Is that the question?
Well, let's say what's happening for me now, that there's this pull, just be silent, just stay in that space, and hold it. And yet there's curiosity. I mean, I cannot remove myself from the other mind that's constantly there, and putting all the perspective and coming with a cold coffee kind of like taste. So like how, like where is the practice in that? Maybe that is the question.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, totally. There are always different doors for practicing. But one thing that just arises for me right now in hearing you speak is that from the perspective of original mind, inner phenomena, like even the feeling of silence or the pull into silence, that sounded like it was a feeling, right? So that too is a phenomenon that you can approach exactly the same way. That's also a sensorial experience. It also, that pull, from the perspective of this whole vision here, is actually a body, like, and it happens in the sense field of touch, because the whole body is touch. So every feeling like that pull you're describing is also like my orange cup. It's just in a different sense field and a different phenomenon. So one way to practice is, you can learn how in everything, basically it's called 5 steps here, and that can be very, if you go through it very slowly, boy, that can be deeply insightful. Like it's wow, all that stuff was just in seeing an orange cup. Like that can be quite remarkable, how rich each moment is when we open it up in each of these 4 steps. But really, basically, you can practice it also as just one step, only one single step. And that's the simpler, more applicable, maybe easier version of it. And that one step is very simply, oh, there's a content of mind. And that can be anything. Can be a thought, can be your feeling of pull into silence. And original mind now, what it is the empty space in which this pull, or an orange cup, or anything else, in which that arises. So you keep, the one step is to always just keep shifting attention back into the emptiness of mind. And that is silent. And it's like the thing to learn, though, and it's the last thing I say to you, and that's the whole process of why practice, unfortunately, does take decades and not just a moment of insight. The reason is it takes decades is to learn how to hold both simultaneously, how to experience within each phenomenon, even in a strong emotion, for example, how to experience the presence of stillness and emptiness. Also within that, within noise, within activity, within busyness, within things we see, we hear, we do. So the real craft then starts out, and that's, we can only do so much. It starts out with recognizing the two worlds, the world of original mind and the noisy world. And at first they seem like, oh, but they are different. It's either or. But then the process is to make them one. And that is what takes years, decades. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, we can just, I basically talked us through it already to some extent. We could just try it out now. I mean, I saw some of you close your eyes. You've probably tried out some of this already, but we do have some time left. Would that be something you'd be interested in? Just, choosing an object and kind of walking and just seeing what happens. And then I'd invite some comments to see if there are any notions or any observations. But for now, if we do this exercise, this practice, I suggest let's take something visual. Again, you could do it in any sense field, but let's take something visual. And I'll ask you to not even try anything. Like, don't expect anything from this little practice time together, but just relax and maybe allow for, just my voice to see if it guides your attention in some way. And if so, you just follow that, but you don't need to try anything or experience anything special. And it's good actually in the beginning of this practice to close your eyes for just a moment. And as meditators, you're most likely used to, first of all, just bringing your attention to your body and your breathing, and making a moment of actual effort to just fully be present. And then when you're ready, you may open your eyes, but kind of slowly. First, just see if you can only let light and shimmers of light come in. And as you open your eyes, see if you can hold some sense of soft eyes, soft, like defocused eyes. Just kind of receiving all of your visual experience, not looking at anything in particular. And then maybe shift your head and your entire posture. Turn yourself so that the object you want to explore, that starts being somewhere in the center of your visual field. And with that object also have some feeling of receiving it. And you don't need to lift it out like a gestalt, you don't, like a figure. You don't need to lift it out of the background, but just let it be embedded in the background. Notice all of your visual experience in some equal way, and notice that and how this particular object is embedded in the midst of an overall visual experience. And then bring your attention really quite specifically into that area where your eyeballs, just like right in your head, your physical eyes, feel the physicality of your eyeballs. Maybe they even start, or that area maybe even starts tingling a tiny little bit. And again, see if there can be some soft feeling, just of receptivity in your eyeballs, and maybe overall in your entire body, some soft feeling of receptivity all throughout your body. And now notice how, when you actually receive this object, there's so much that you cannot see about it. Like there's one side that's turned away from your gaze, that's actually hidden to you. Also, all of its history, all of its potential future, all of that, maybe you can bring some awareness how each thing has its entire own path. Each thing has its entire own history and future, and all that is present, almost like folded into its very presence now. Just have some awareness of that. How it's embedded in so much we don't know, so much unknowing, non-knowing. And as you are receiving this object, be aware, some feeling that you're actually, this is sharing a moment. Bring some awareness to how you, this object, and everything all at once is sharing a moment, the moment of now. And sharing a moment, how that means to also be deeply intertwined Everything is existing together right now. The past is gone. The future is not here yet. Everything in the entire universe is existing together in this shared now. And if you're ready, you may want to do some gesture of closure. In monastic practice, we always bow, or you can put your hands on your heart, or just rub your hands, whatever feels like moment of closure. It's also, in general, it's a kind of Taoist thing. You kind of rub your face for a moment after an exploration. All right, let's see. Do we have everyone back? Have you re-arisen from coexisting? Well, let's just see. Again, that was experimental, but I'd love to hear any comments, whatever happened for you. I know it's always a little difficult to find words, but Rosa knows how to find words.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, someone else?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Joseph,
If
you want to start?
yeah,
Yeah.
my eyes just started aching, so that was
Okay.
rather distracting.
And it started aching in some, any, like emotionally, or?
No, just the eyes.
Oh, your eyes started aching.
My eyes, yes.
Your eyes. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I had a little pen and I was looking down, and then the eyes started. They sometimes do, but I didn't expect it to happen now.
Yeah, so they sometimes, you have that experience sometimes, or is that unfamiliar to you?
No, sometimes happens that the eyes ache.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, I mean, sometimes for myself, by the way, I just recently had optical neuritis, and so then inflammation in my eye nerve, and I'm holding a lot of tension in my eyes, actually. So I don't know exactly what, obviously, but sometimes when we bring attention to an area that's holding some tension, then of course we become aware of the tension we are holding. Yeah, so, but yeah, that's that happens. Yeah, but that's true, that makes sense, then that's distracting. Yeah. Rosa.
I was actually quite surprised because of the or by this a really thick field of memory that opened up. So the first, when I listened to your talk, I looked at my pen and I thought, well, yeah, it's just a pen. Haha. But
It's amazing.
it was given to me by someone, and then the someone was very present.
Yeah.
And then during the guided practice, I thought, oh, now I look at something else, I take another object, it's just another object. But actually, it turns out it was also given to me by someone as a present. And so actually, I was not very present in my visual field. There was the memory of these people and a realm of emotions that opened up, and I was quite attached to it. It was quite interesting to just dwell in these memories and the gratitude and the soft feelings that came up. So there was resistance to letting go of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. That was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that experience really well. How like literally, that's why I'm so amazed that you can take literally any object. I have not yet found an object that doesn't call forth a whole world somehow, even if I have no direct relationship to it, like definitely happening with objects on my desk. But I can go, you know, to somebody else's house and receive an object in that way. And visually, I think for most of us is most deeply related to memory function. So that's why visual is actually, especially online, is the only sense field that we really can choose. Sounds are too fleeting. They're already gone. They are not constant. We don't smell. It's difficult to talk about smell online. So it's just, one could take the body, but visual is the one. And that's oftentimes profoundly related to memory. So if it's not a personal association, then what I found is that oftentimes, though, it's like from that object will bridge into, will flow almost into something else that again does call forth memories. So one of the big explorations in this whole path is how many layers of script for each of us there are in this world, and how deeply personal that is. Because of course, you know, nobody can see what you're seeing in that pen, but it's right there, just right underneath the surface of consciousness, and ready to come out when it's just given a little space. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I could not unsee it. It was all there.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else want to share anything?
Yeah, my bell is so interested in me. I didn't know that this thing is really interested in me, and I don't know whether I'm projecting this relationship because I have it for a long time, but actually the story is all not present. It's the utter curiosity of suchness immersed in that thing that is interested in me. Do you get it? What I want to say? It's really, and it's very touching. It really opens my heart. I sensed the value of everything. Equally. That touches me the most. Everything is value. Yeah. No differentiation, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really touches on the innocence of the heart, of the innocence of just pure being with what is. No?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, did you want to say something? You moved as if your mind moved, but maybe not.
There's nothing to share. I'm at the very beginning, so I step into the experience and step out. And beside, I'm tired.
Okay.
Feel that I'm tired. So it's a mixture of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I share again?
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at the book, and kind of like went into the whole cycle of the creation of the book, of the printing, of the steps, then the author possibly like having the moment of writing the book, and that just kind of like images going on. And then my cat started to meow. He was outside, and the image just distorted itself as the cat started to come into the image. My mind was resisting, the connection of the cat in that story. And then I started to kind of like struggle with that a bit before I could open and allow the cat and the sound of the cat. So I couldn't see, but I could hear the cat coming. And then just awareness of how much energy potentially that can create and or like take, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
then also like I can see where the practice can what you're saying, like coming
Yes.
in one moment, and how it can be like balancing and kind of like swinging,
Yeah.
like gently from one to the other. So that was very special. Thank you for the guidance.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such an important point you're bringing up. I think really and that was also quite present in what you said, Tatini. I think there's a bit of a swinging door, and which side are we going to be on? That has to do with, are we opening ourselves to the present moment as it is, which in Buddhism is called suchness. And then anything that is, there is nothing that is not part of suchness.
Yeah.
That's the definition of suchness. But on the other side of that swinging door is shouldness. There's suchness and there's shouldness. So usually our mind is rooted in shouldness. Oh, the cat should not be there. Or sensations that we're having. It could be anything, literally. That's why, this practice, it doesn't ever not apply, but it takes a long, long time to really get ourselves to feel that, like including tiredness is just suchness. It's just another phenomenon inside suchness, or even tension in the eyes is also just another phenomenon within suchness. So it's from the perspective of original mind can only, the perspective is only possible on the other side of shouldness, as long as we're somehow in some expectation. And of course, I created that expectation by saying, let's take something visual. So then if visual doesn't work, then I'm creating a sort of expectation too. But in the end, and that's like part of the process, is to learn that you're always in suchness. You can never deviate from suchness. It's just that oftentimes, very often, unfortunately, suchness deviates from our expectations. That's the only problem. And then we're thrown out of suchness and into shouldness. So like how to keep getting the step is really, in that sense, actually twofold. I said in the beginning, it's just one step, but there's a second step before that step. And that's first we need to re-enter but this is what it is right now. And we can only look from that feeling of original mind at suchness. Yeah.
But aren't our expectations also part of how it is?
Yes, the moment you realize that, you're on the other side of the door. Also, the expectation is suchness. That's perfectly true, and thank you for that comment. The shouldness is not realizing that that's also suchness. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we are coming to a closure. And Barbara, I would just like to mention the retreat is open to practitioners from all traditions and levels of experience. Yeah, it's about coming together, wishing to explore a more, maybe more direct, more grounded relationship with mind, with perception, and these mysteries of the present moment that guided so beautifully and directly by Nicole. So everyone is super welcome here. And I also put something in the chat, our lovely postcard and also the email address in case you have any further questions, and a link. And we are looking, I know some of you already read from my list. I went through the list this week who applied and who will come. Super happy, and a warm welcome from the eamba, the whole eamba team. And thank you so much, dear Nicole, for spending this again very insightful hour. And thank you to Teresa, our eamba exchange team. And thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to thank you, Nicole, and of course Tatini, for the immense work she's always pouring into the organization of this retreat, because it's a lot of work. And then when you go, to the location, there is then also saying that this retreat is not only in person in Germany, but it's online, and that everybody can attend from home if you can't travel to Germany, because it can be, a bit difficult on the 2nd of January anyway. So there are many possibilities to be part of this. And we really invite you to consider to participate. And it's a wonderful experience. We have already 60 people, and the more fulfilling the experience could be. So please, thank you so much, Nicole, for your time. And really welcoming everybody also that was present here tonight and online, of course, if you are willing to watch this video or watch it again. Yeah. So just go to eamba in YouTube, eamba, and you will find this video there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
My bear wants to say something.
Well spoken.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.